CBS presents this program in color.
One of these men was captured and brainwashed by communist soldiers, and turning his back on his family and flag, lived 12 years in Red China. What is your name, please?
My name is Morris Wills.
My name is Morris Wills.
My name is Morris Wills.
Only one of these gentlemen is the real Morris Wills. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, Kitty Carlisle, plus 100 members of our studio audience on To Tell the Truth. To Tell the Truth is brought to you tonight by Good Ground Maxwell House Coffee. Always good to the last drop. And now, here's our host on To Tell the Truth, Bud Collier.
Thank you very much, and welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Good evening, panel.
Good evening, Bud. Do you realize if you were President Johnson's son, you would be Bud Bird?
That's enough of that. Again tonight, incidentally, we're going to give 100 persons in our studio audience a chance to vote electronically each time we play a game on To Tell the Truth. So, audience, stay alert and get those voting buttons ready. And as for you, panel, open up that envelope and follow along with me on this first story. I, Morris Wills, had just turned 18 when I was captured by the Chinese during the Korean War. I was forced to march about 500 miles to a prisoner of war camp in North Korea. This ordeal left me almost dying of starvation. I was little more than an animal. With me in this condition, it was possible for the Chinese to brainwash me into believing that communism was superior to American democracy. I decided to defect. I stayed in China for 12 years, becoming increasingly disillusioned with the lies, the failures, and the cruelties of the communist system. I asked permission to leave China, received it, and returned to America with my Chinese wife and baby daughter. Today, I am ashamed of my decision to defect, but I do not deny that I made that decision voluntarily. Since my return, I have given valuable inside information on the situation in China to the United States government. Signed, Morris Wills. Panel, these three gentlemen all claim to be, as you heard, Morris Wills. And we start the questioning with Tom Poston. Tom?
Thank you, Bud. I think it's one of the cruelest aspects of modern warfare, and it's too bad. But number 3, is there any way of undoing the brainwashing that you went through?
Oh, yes.
Did you go through a lot of procedure for that?
It's not procedure.
Number 2, you're convinced that it's all that the brainwashing has all been overcome and changed, aren't you?
Yes, more or less.
What I'm getting at is, number 1, for instance, now, could you be trusted? I'm not talking about consciously, but could you be trusted with secrets of one kind or another that you wouldn't, under any circumstances, betray to the people who brainwashed you in the first place?
I'm sorry, you say could I or
could you?
Would I? Oh, yes.
Well, how do you know, number 3? How do you know they got it all out?
One never knows.
Oh, I'm not telling you anything. Thank you.
Peggy Cass.
Number 2, whereabouts did you live in China?
Peking.
Number 1, did they promise you an education if you went to China?
Either education or work, whatever I wanted.
Well, did they send you to university?
Yes, I elected to go to school.
To where?
To college. I went for 8
thank
years.
you. And number 3, what did you work at in China? What was your job?
I was a translator.
Thank you. Number 2, are there any other people that defected that are still in China, or have they all come home?
Yes, there are about 2 people left there.
Number 1, did you find the fact that you were an Occidental worked against you? Was there prejudice against you in China because you were an Occidental rather than an Oriental?
In a sense there was, yes, but I had privileges too.
Thank you. Number 3, do you remember any of the way in which they did brainwash you so you can tell us and so they can't do it to somebody else? If you follow that tortured reasoning?
There's no set procedure. You're just very tired and open to suggestion.
Thank you. Number...
Horse and bean.
Number two, brainwashing itself, the term is just a high-class Madison Avenue term for extensive interrogation and wearing down of a person, is it not?
True, yes.
Why do you think you broke under it when others did not? You and the others who broke. Why do you, have you ever thought about that?
Maybe because I was younger or had a different nature.
Different nature. Number one, how about penalties? I mean, you deserted from the Army, did you not?
No, I was a prisoner until my time of service was up.
Oh, you were? I mean, you were taken... That's right, of course you were. Now, were there any penalties imposed on you by the United States government at all?
No, because I was dishonorably discharged.
Oh, you were dishonorably discharged, I see.
They've changed that since.
What you...
Changed it.
Oh.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number one, was hypnosis used in the brainwashing?
No.
Number two, were any drugs used?
No,
None at all.
no.
Number three, in having given the information to the United States government, are you ever afraid of reprisals from the Chinese in this country? You're well known now. You're on this television show.
No, not in this country.
No.
Your shirt looks pretty small there.
Number two, how many characters are there in Chinese?
Approximately, altogether, you mean?
Yeah.
Maybe 10,000.
Number one, do you agree with that?
No, 45,000.
Thank you. Number three, we have been told that they're against marriage in China, but perhaps this is a recent development. Were you able to marry your wife with no trouble?
There was a waiting period,
How long?
about 10 months.
Number two.
And that's all we have time for, I'm sorry to say. But panel, mark your ballots, if you will, please, without change, without any concentration. While you're doing that, I'll ask our studio audience to mark their ballots, too, if they will. Remember, of course, that there's $250 for each and every incorrect vote. But you in the studio audience, on the voting machines in front of you, each of you have 3 buttons. And when I say vote, please select number 1, number 2, or number 3. Are you ready? Vote. Your votes have been registered. Now let's see how our panelists voted. Tom, for whom did you vote?
Well, Bud, I voted for number 2. I honestly believed everything that 1 and 3 said, but they were so firm and so strong that I don't think they would have succumbed to the brainwashing, so I voted for number 2. Seemed like a nice, gentle, mild person.
Peggy Katz.
Well, I voted for number 1. You know, well, this sounds corny, but he looks as though he's been through a lot.
Horse and bean.
Well, I'm afraid one of us is going to say Queen of Spades or something, and it'll be like the Manchurian Candidate, and they'll jump up and kill Bud or something. But I voted for number 2 because he looks like all of those pictures of those poor guys in those suits made out of quilt. You know, those kind of, looks like a comforter, you know.
That's no criticism of his sartorial splendor,
Actually,
I assume.
it's a splendid suit, but it's something about the way he wears it that makes it look lumpy. I don't know.
Kitty Carlisle.
Well, I voted for number 1 because number 2 said there were 10,000 characters in all in the Chinese language, and that there are much more, it's more likely 45,000. And number 1 hadn't smiled yet when I voted for him, and I also felt he'd gone through a great deal.
Very well, there we have it. With all the panel votes in, let's find out now who got the most votes from our studio audience. Our studio audience voted for number 1. Got the most votes from our studio audience. So, let's find out which of these men, in truth, is Morris Wills. Will the real Morris Wills please stand up? Thank you very much, and you fooled our studio audience very handily. May interest you to know that Mr. Wills is a research associate at present at Harvard University, preparing an analysis on Chinese education, and that he has just completed a book to be published in the fall by Prentice Hall, which is entitled Turncoat, An American's 12 Years in Communist China. Yes, Kitty?
Is it true that there are only 10,000 characters in Chinese?
Well, there are more than 10,000 characters, but anything over 10,000 or 11,000 more or less are just variations of the others.
Thank you.
Number one, what is your real name, sir, and what do you really do?
My name is Bill Wright, and I'm a magazine writer and playwright.
And number three, what is your real name and what do you do, sir?
My name is Louis Tannenbaum. I'm Vice President of Sales of a mutual fund, CompuFund.
Thank you. Checking the score, we find that there were 2 incorrect votes from our panel and 1 incorrect vote from the studio audience at $250 each. Total, therefore, gentlemen, $750. Thank you for being with us. Hope you had a good time. Good night, and God bless you. We'll meet our next team of challengers in just a minute, right after this message.
She wasn't much of an outdoor girl, but she loved me, so she had to love camping. Wife, I said, there's one thing you've got to know out here. How to make good coffee. Maxwell House coffee. Blue can, good to the last drop. Maxwell House. Taste it. Good to the last drop. So be a good little Maxwell housewife, and you'll make one husband very happy.
Sometimes I think he loves cheesecake more than he does me. But with this cheesecake, I can understand. It's Jell-O's new cheesecake from a mix. It comes with real cheese filling and a crunchy graham cracker crust. You don't bake it. You just mix and chill. Is that good? That's good. New Jell-O cheesecake mix. Really great cheesecake with no baking. Do you like it? He likes it.
And now let's meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Mary Chipperfield.
My name is Mary Chipperfield.
My name is Mary Chipperfield.
Follow along again, if you will, panel, with your copies of this one. I, Mary Chipperfield, come from a family with almost 300 years' background in wild animal training. For the past 7 years, I have been the head of the zoo in Southampton, England. Currently, I am the supervisor of an unusual lion preserve maintained on the grounds surrounding Longleat, the stately home of the Marquis of Bath. I'm in complete charge of 40 lions who roam the 100 acres with no cages or bars of any kind to separate them from the public. Visitors may drive their own cars throughout the grounds to observe close up the big cats living free in surroundings similar to their natural habitat. The lions of Longleat constitute the first preserve of its kind outside the continent of Africa. Signed, Mary Chipperfield. Panel, these 3 young ladies, as you heard, all claim to be Mary Chipperfield. We'll start the cross-examination with Peggy Cass, if we may. Peggy?
Thank you. Number 3, does the Marquis of Bath own the lions as well as Longleat?
The lions belong half to the Marquis of Bath.
Well, number 3, is there a Marchioness of Bath? Is there a
Yes.
Marchioness? Oh, there is? Oh, dear. Oh, well, that's the Lady Marquis, in case you wanted to know. Tell me, number 1, is the climate odd in England for lions? I mean, I think it's so cold and damp for the lions.
Well, they get on all right.
But it's quite different from the hot sun of Africa.
Well, during the day there's hot sun in Africa, but at night it's cold in Africa.
And it's always cold in Bath, I suppose.
Horse and Bean.
Number 3, how many lions? There are 40 lions. Is this a case where the poor Marquis was going to lose his castle, so he charges money for the public to come in to keep it?
He hopes that the lions are going to help keep the house going.
Number 2, how much money do you have to make to keep one of those things going?
Oh, well, it spreads over the number of lions and...
I mean, not about lions. I mean, how much money does it cost an earl or a marquis to keep his stately home going these days?
Oh, I have no idea what figures he...
Number 1, do lions have bad breath?
Kitty Carlisle.
You always just keep hoping they don't. Number one, what other kinds of animals do you have at Longleat?
Chimpanzees, giraffes, hippopotamus.
Thank you. Number two, do these animals get along well together?
You mean, oh no, the lions are separate from the rest of the...
Where are the lions?
The lions are in an enclosure.
Uh-huh. They don't roam free?
Well, they roam free within the enclosure.
I see, but they're by themselves. I read a delicious story about the Marchioness of Bath. She had her Daily Times ironed every day before she would touch it.
That's class.
I thought so. Does she still do that? I'd like to know.
I've no idea.
Tom Poston.
Okay. Number one, where is Bath? I've heard about it a lot for years. Bath. Or
It's
Bath.
in Wiltshire.
Where?
Wiltshire.
Well, what is the, number three, what is the order of Bath? Do you know anything about it? Why am I asking you this, right? Number three, what do you feed those lions?
Meat.
Bath meat? Number two, how can you get a car in where the lions are without the lions getting out while the car is going in?
Well, there's what we call a lock. These are two gates. One gate opens, it closes, the cars go in until the other opens.
Thank you.
That's it. Time for you to mark your ballots, if you will, please, panel. Mark them immediately without change, without consultation. And again, while you're doing this, it is time for our studio audience to mark their ballots as well. When I say vote, as I did before, select, if you will, audience, number one, number two, or number three. Are you ready? Vote. And again, your votes have been registered. Let's find out how the panel voted. Tom, for whom did you vote?
I'm just now scrawling my number three there. I had a terrible time voting because they don't look like they're old enough to have been the head of a zoo for 7 years and now working at Longleat and all that stuff. I finally had to vote for number three, not because she was older, but because it was the only one I could think that might do it.
Oh. Peggy Cass.
You know, I sort of thought I knew number two, but I voted... I couldn't know her. I voted for two because of the locks. You know, I just drive through the gate, let all the lions out. I wouldn't have thought of two things. That's great.
Orson.
They're all fine girls, and but number three reminds me of a girl I met once at the Battersea Dogs Home, and who also loved animals. And I think she looks like she has a sense of humor to me, and I think you have to hang around 40 lions.
Were you wearing a quilted suit at the time?
Yes, I was. I had a few shorts.
Kitty Carlisle.
Well, I voted for number two. I got more information out of her, but I think I also questioned her more. I liked what she said about the locks and the lions being in their own enclosure. She also looks to me as though she has an English haircut.
Very well, let's find out who got the most votes from our studio audience. Our studio audience voted for number two. Very well, time now to find out the truth of the matter. Which one of these ladies is, in truth, Mary Chipperfield? Will the real Mary Chipperfield please stand up? Well, you fooled our studio audience. Fooled most of them, at least. Mary, I understand that someone in your family is opening a preserve similar to the one that you're supervising now, right here in this country. Is that true?
That's right. We're opening one called Down Country Safari in Florida.
Yeah. In Florida?
Yes.
Same size as yours?
Much bigger, 600 acres.
And how many lions?
100.
Wow, boy. Well, it should be fascinating, I'm sure. Number one, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Mary Lawyer, and I'm a secretary with the architectural firm of S.J. Kessler and Sons.
Thank you. And number two, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Morva Manson. At the moment, I am an editor for a baby magazine called Baby Talk.
Well, checking the score, ladies, you did well. Because there were two incorrect votes from our panel, and there was one incorrect vote from the audience, and each one worth $250. The total you take along with you is $750. Thanks for gracing our show. Good night, and God bless you. We'll be back with our next team and play another game in a minute, but now listen to this.
53 years, smokers have been enjoying the real tobacco taste of Camels. And today, Camels are still America's leading regular cigarettes. Now you can have famous Camel quality in new Camel filters, too.
Camel filters have a real taste, too. Camel filters have a real taste, too. Camel filter cigarettes.
Have a real smoke. Regular or filter, have a Camel.
Camel filters have a real taste, too.
Satisfied longer.
Camel filters have a real taste, too.
Satisfied longer. Camel regular or filter cigarettes.
And now let's meet our third team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Richard Arthur.
My name is Richard Arthur.
My name is Richard Arthur.
Follow along once more, if you will, please, panel. I, Richard Arthur, am an enthusiast of a sport called land yachting. A land yacht is a three-wheeled, single-masted vehicle that, under full sail, can scoot across the ground at speeds of up to 60 miles an hour. The only source of power is the wind. Just last month, 20 other land yachters and I completed a grueling 31-day sail across the world's largest sea of sand, the Sahara Desert. We traveled almost 1,800 miles from Kolom Bechar in Algeria to Nouakchott on the Atlantic coast of Mauritania. We ate bad food, endured the blazing sun and chilly desert night, and were blinded by sandstorms. As land yachters, we were continually confronted with an emergency sea sailors seldom experience: flat tires. Signed, Richard Arthur. These three gentlemen panel all claim to be Richard Arthur, as you heard, and we start the questioning with one of the stars of Broadway's newest musical, Ilya Darling, Orson Bean.
Thank you, Bud. Now, I had #1, and my cousin Gerald once got caught on an ice boat in a high wind and screwed himself into Lake Penobscot. It was a terrible... they got him out the next spring. Is it anything, #1, like an ice boat?
It's very similar to an ice boat, other than it has wheels.
It has wheels. Well, #3, why would you get flat tires? You need pneumatic tires, do you, for this kind of a thing?
Yes, you use pneumatic tires, and the reason that we had so many flats, the desert is very rocky in places, and also thorn bushes puncture the tires.
Thorn bushes in the middle of the Sahara.
Kitty Carlisle.
#2, what is the keel of your sailing boat like?
We don't have a keel.
What is it? It's just like it's like an automobile then. You sit in a
It would be similar to a tricycle.
A tricycle. It has 3 wheels.
Yes, well, most have 3 wheels.
Thank you. #1, how long did this take?
Well, actually, 21 sailing days.
And #3, did you find oases everywhere, or did you bring all the water with you?
We carried our water. We saw one very small oasis.
Where did you camp at night, #2?
We had tents on board, and we had support vehicles with us.
Thank you. #1, do you have any women with you?
There was one woman from France. Pilot.
And what did she do? Cook?
She was a pilot.
She was a pilot.
Tom Poston.
#1, how cold is it at night there?
Got down around 40.
Oh, that's not really too bad. Did you all stay together, #2?
We tried to, but of course, when you're racing...
Oh, it was a race, #2?
It started out as a race, yes.
Oh, my. #3, how did you keep warm at night? Did you carry all that stuff with you?
We carried everything on our own vehicle.
Thank you. #1, I'm very curious. Does a land yacht like that have auxiliary power of any kind, like an ocean-going yacht might have?
No.
Could it have?
It wouldn't be feasible, no.
How did you, #2, how did you get through towns and villages and places where the wind wasn't doing its work?
We never went through a town. We might skirt around it.
Peggy Cass.
Thank you. #3, did you have a crew?
We had a team of 3 men. Only one man can fit on a boat at one time.
What does the other one do, run along beside?
Follows along in a Land Rover.
Oh, gee whiz. Now, #2, you said it was like riding a tricycle. Boy, I wouldn't want to ride a tricycle for 21 days. It must have been pretty uncomfortable, right, #2?
Quite uncomfortable, yes.
You think that you're going to make a going sport of this?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Uh-huh. Good.
That's it. Time again for you to mark your ballots. So kindly do so, panel. And again, while you are doing that, we'll ask the studio audience to vote. Again, when I say vote, will you select number 1, number 2, or number 3? Are you ready? Vote. Again, your votes have been registered. We'll find out now how our panelists voted. Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 1. He's lean and strong of jaw and looks like he would enjoy something like this.
Peggy.
No, I like I voted for number 3. He's nice and heavy and strong looking. Be good ballast for a boat.
Oh, gee.
Orson B.
Well, number 3 doesn't look like he's had too much bad food lately. And number 1 looks like he has and has been through some chilly nights on the frozen tundra. The stories I could tell you. Therefore, I voted for him. An old man and his ramblings.
Kitty Carlisle.
Well, I voted for number 1 because he indeed looks very earnest and stalwart and very thin, and I think he did it.
Right. Now let's find out who got the most votes from our studio audience. Our audience voted for number 1 got the most votes from our studio audience. So let's find out which of these 3 men in truth is Richard Arthur. Will the real Richard Arthur please stand up? Well, you didn't fool our studio audience this time. Thank you, sir. Number 2, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is David Wicks, and I'm a student at the Graduate School of Business at the University of Virginia.
Thank you, sir. Number 3, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Mike Sheridan. I'm a regional manager with a temporary help service called Western Girl.
Thank you. And checking the score, there was only 1 incorrect vote. That was cast by our panel, but that's still worth $250, gentlemen. Thank you very much for being with us, and we hope you enjoyed yourselves. Good night, and God bless you. We'll be back in a minute, but right now, this important message.
Here are 3 different cooks. The good cook mashes and mashes her potatoes. The great cook rices them first, like her cookbook recommends. Now, the smart cook is also a great cook because she uses new mashed potato buds, the only ones already riced. Tiny puffs of Idaho potatoes that whip up better tasting than any others, even homemade. Mashed potato buds from Petty Crocker. They're already riced.
1. This man is counting the places new stacks are toasted. Front, back, sides. In fact, stacks are toasted in places where other cereals don't even have places. That's why we call stacks the crunch maker. And that means stacks have the crisp, crunchy flavor of toasted whole wheat. You can count on it. New wheat stacks, the crunch maker. Toasted in places where other cereals don't even have places.
Sorry.
That's all we have time for. Good night, panel.
Good night, Bud.
Good night to all of you, and we're counting on you being with us next week at the same time. And, of course, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon on the daytime show. But in the meantime, don't you forget to tell the truth. Good night.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Woodson, Bill Todman production. Johnny Olson speaking. This program was pre-recorded. Brought to you tonight by new wheat stacks, the crunch maker from General Mills.
Do you know if this is the horse that won the Kentucky Derby?